Hi, I'm STS-131 Commander Alan Poindexter, and you're watching NASA TV.
This is Shuttle Launch Control. We are now in the crew quarters at the Operations Checkout Building. Commander Alan Poindexter and the crew are getting into their orange launch and entry suits and preparing for their trip out to the pad. It's pilot Jim Dutton being assisted with his orange Aces suit, getting the gloves on. Mission Specialist 1 Rick Mastracchio, looking at ease, confident and ready to fly today. And Clay Anderson, Mission Specialist number 5, a veteran of a long-duration space station flight, getting ready for his mission. He'll be one of 2 spacewalkers along with Rick Mastracchio on STS-131. Mission Specialist number 3, Stephanie Wilson. She's a veteran of 2 space flights, STS-121 and STS-120. Thumbs up, she's ready to go. And our Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut, Naoko Yamazaki. A big wave for the cameras and a thumbs up. She's one of 3 Discovery women astronauts who will be joining a female aboard the International Space Station. There's Dottie Metcalf-Lindenberger. She's Mission Specialist number 2, making her first space flight. She's a former high school science teacher turned astronaut, and she looks very excited. The crew is very nearly ready to begin their walkout to Launch Pad 39A, where Space Shuttle Discovery stands illuminated by xenon light, ready for a launch at 6:21 a.m. Eastern Time. And we see the astronauts for Discovery's STS-131 mission waving at the camera, excited to be heading towards the elevator. That means they'll be on their way out to the launch pad aboard the Astrovan shortly. Several management astronauts in trailing them. Over 100 news media await the arrival of Discovery's crew, and here they are.
Hands, get back, get back.
We see the crew now out of the Astrovan, and they're walking over so they can get a better look at this beautiful Space Shuttle Discovery.
There we can see some of the venting that you were talking about.
And they just need to walk a little further over here so they can get a good view. And there's another view looking down at them. Now, already inside the Space Shuttle Discovery at this point is our astronaut support personnel, and see they're actually waving up to them. Right here now you have a view up on the 195-foot level, and we see closeout crew member number 3, that's John Hazelhurst. He's waiting for the arrival of the 7 crew members from the Space Shuttle Discovery. So 7 crew members from Discovery, 7 members of the closeout crew, and at this time we also still have our ICE team out there at the launch pad. And here we see a view from the white room, which is just outside the hatch of the shuttle. And we have the commander, Alan Poindexter.
Sending greetings to his family.
He's a Navy captain, and he's on his 2nd flight here. You're seeing him get into a harness. This harness will hook into his parachute. We have emergency survival equipment inside that harness. If it looks uncomfortable, it kind of is, but we get used to it because we train with it so much. The parachute, if required, but we all have them in case we need them, they're already in the seat waiting inside the space shuttle. So when he gets in, we'll clip that harness right into the parachute.
And as traditionally happens, the commander will be the first aboard.
We now have a view inside the Space Shuttle Discovery. And you also heard that the commander is on board. That call was from the closeout crew, letting the Launch Control Center team know that Commander Poindexter is on board. And now we see Mission Specialist Clay Anderson. Clay will be sitting on the mid-deck. So here they've got his parachute harness on him, and they're just putting in some light sticks. Clay's giving a shout out to all his family and friends. Clay's just put on his communications cap. Inside that cap, you have earphones on both sides, and we also have microphones that come across, and he'll strap all that on. Once he gets into his seat, we'll plug that whole system into the communication system, and we'll be able to talk to him. We'll actually hear that in a little while. As each crew member hooks into their communication system, they want to check that out, and they'll actually do a comm check. We've changed the view back now, as you see Alan Poindexter, the commander, in his seat. And if he looks like he's laying down, well, he kind of is, because with the orbiter in the vertical position, the seats are back, so you're actually laying on your back. We've got a view of our pilot, Jim Dutton.
This is ISL.
Jim is one of the rookie flyers.
That's correct. He's on his first flight, but boy, you'd never know it. He has been training for so long for this, and he's just a natural at it.
Copy.
Well, he certainly has a lot of flying experience. He has over 3,300 hours in more than 30 different aircraft to his credit.
Now we actually have a view from inside the mid-deck of the space shuttle. And we see the insertion tech number 7. That's Ray Cuevas in the white suit with the number 7 on the back. He's actually strapping in mission specialist Clay Anderson into the mid-deck. Back to the flight deck with a view of Alan Poindexter. And if you look close, you can kind of see 2 people working around there. They're helping strap him in and also place all of his equipment where he can properly reach it. And as you can imagine, with all the vibration that we experience with launch, it's important that the different small items that we might need, like a checklist or even a pen or a pencil, is nearby with either a good bit of Velcro or at least a tether, because we don't want things flying loose in there as we rattle on up to orbit. In your view right now, on the closer part of the view, you see Stephanie Wilson.
Yep, Stephanie's making her 3rd space flight. She flew on STS-121 first and STS-120 second.
Go ahead.
She has a bachelor's degree from Harvard and a master's degree from the University of Texas,
OTCC GLS 2.
and is mission specialist 3 on this mission.
I can give you steps 593 through 599.
And she's also quite the wizard at operating robotic arms. Hey, now we got Stephanie Wilson giving a shout out to her family. And that's always a fun thing to do, to you know that your family and friends are all watching, and be able to acknowledge that you appreciate them watching, and you appreciate all their support, because they've been supporting quite a long time when these crews have been putting in a lot of long hours, and it's really wonderful to know we have that great support team behind us.
NTD, CDR, com check.
CDR, this is NTD. I've got you loud and clear. Good morning, Dex.
Good morning, Steve. Got you loud and clear as well. Houston, CDR, com check.
CDR, Houston, we read you loud and clear. Good morning, Dex.
Good morning, CJ, to you and everybody in the Mission Control Center. I've got you loud and clear.
And Rick Mastracchio is getting ready to board.
In the meantime, we just changed our view back to inside the crew module on the flight deck. Now you're seeing our pilot. So we actually moved the camera over to the other side, and we're seeing our pilot, Jim Dutton. He also goes by call sign MASH. So MASH is getting all strapped into his seat.
And he'll be ready to do his voice checks momentarily.
That's correct. Once we get his helmet on him and his gloves and get him all strapped in, we'll hear the similar comm checks from him. As you can imagine, it's actually very critical to make sure that we can communicate with each of the crew members.
Back in the white room with Rick Mastracchio. This will be his third flight. He's mission specialist number 1, and he and Clay Anderson will be conducting all 3 of the spacewalks on the mission.
Back now to this view on the middeck, we see Stephanie Wilson climbing up into her seat. Her seat on the middeck is actually the one that's closest to the hatch. There are 3 seats located on the middeck, and you can see Clay Anderson is closest to us, and then there's another seat in the center that's not quite visible right now.
And there's Naoko Yamazaki. This is a big day for Naoko and for the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. She's their 2nd female astronaut, and she will be flying to the space station and joining a fellow JAXA astronaut, Soichi Noguchi. Naoko is making her first flight. She was selected by the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency as an astronaut in 1999.
The view that you're seeing now is in the flight deck of the space shuttle. We've moved the camera now. It was over there right by our pilot, Jim Dutton, but now we've moved it to the very center of the dash, if you will, up by the windshield, looking back down. And so that way we'll be able to see. If you, it's kind of hard to see, but look closely, it's a little bit dark. You see Rick Mastracchio is in his seat, and he's being strapped in. And that would be on the left side of your view.
There's Dottie Metcalf-Lindenberger. She is a rookie. She is one of 3 former school teachers selected as mission specialists in the 2004 Educator Astronaut class, along with Joe Akaba and Ricky Arnold, who both flew aboard Discovery on STS-119 in March 2009.
5, com check.
MS5, OTC, I've got you loud and clear. Good morning, Clay.
Good morning, Lori. I have you the same. NTD, MS5, com check.
MS5, this is NTD. I've got you loud and clear. Good morning, Clay.
Good morning, Steve. I have you the same, sir. And MS5, com check.
MS5, Houston, we read you loud and clear. Good morning, Clay.
CJ, I have you the same.
OTC, OVCC.
Go ahead.
MS4 on board at this time.
CMT 0743.
And this is back to the flight deck now with MS-1 Rick Mastragio, and we're seeing him close and lock his visor. We'll hear his communications checks.
MS-1, com check.
MS-1, this is NTD. I have you loud and clear. Good morning, Rick.
Morning, Steve. Loud and clear also. Houston, MS-1, com check.
MS-1 Houston, we read you loud and clear. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, CJ. Loud and clear also.
This view is back to the mid deck, and it's a little tough to see, but Naoko is in the center of all of that orange that you see, and she's getting positioned into her seat. Although this is a dark view, in the very center of your view right now is Dottie, or MS-2, sitting in her seat, and they're working to fasten all of her seat belts and strap her in.
And Discovery, during the Astrocom checks, adjust appropriate volume control for comfort. Do not change the audio panel switch configuration.
Discovery copies.
And Discovery, this is the OTC with a com check on air to ground 1.
CDR, loud and clear. TLT, MS-1.
MS-2, MS-3, MS-4,
MS-5.
I copy all and switching to air to ground 2.
This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 9 minutes and holding. 8 minutes, 25 seconds remain in the hold. And as Space Shuttle Discovery prepares for launch, the International Space Station, traveling about 220 miles above the Earth, is on a 51.6-degree inclination to the equator. The shuttle launch time is based on the time that the Earth's rotation carries Kennedy Space Center's launch pad into the plane of the space station's orbit. And right now, as we speak, the space station is approaching Kennedy. For residents and visitors in the Space Coast area, it will be visible for about 3 minutes, beginning momentarily. It should appear from the south-southwest and move to the east, peaking at about 43-degree elevation in the sky. And at the time of liftoff, just minutes away, the space station, moving at 17,500 miles per hour, or 5 miles a second, will have moved to out over the Atlantic Ocean southwest of Ireland. Mission Control in Houston is sending NASA television to the members of the space station crew so they can watch the launch of Space Shuttle Discovery.
NTD SRO 212.
Go ahead, SRO.
Range is go for countdown resumption, and T0 range status is go for launch. What's your status for the new T0?
We're go.
Copy.
And we see the space station traveling over the Kennedy Space Center on NASA television. It just passed the moon. A bright dot in the sky. Residents throughout the world can find sighting opportunities by going to NASA's website at www.nasa.gov and looking for sightings. The space station is longer than a football field. Its solar arrays span 240 feet. And it's 45 feet tall. It's a large object. It's getting bigger all the time. 6 permanent crew members are there today, about to be joined by the 7 crew members of Space Shuttle Discovery to conduct science in space.
JRPS, go ahead. L-minus 15 recorder activation.
Copy.
At this time, the International Space Station is about 90% complete by mass and 98% complete by habitable volume.
Copy, we'll put in work.
MS1 and MS4 OTC, activate V10 recorders.
The chase will be on beginning at 6:21 a.m. in 25 seconds when Space Shuttle Discovery begins to track the International Space Station.
OTC?
OTC is go.
TBC? TBC is go. PTC? PTC is go. LPS? LPS is go. Houston flight?
Houston flight is go.
Mila?
Milo's go.
STM?
STM is go.
Safety console?
Safety consoles go.
SPE?
SP is go.
LRD?
LRD is go.
SRO?
This is SRO, please stand by.
And CDR?
Discovery is go.
NTD SRO.
Go ahead.
SRO is go. You have range clear to launch.
Copy, go from SRO, thank you. And launch director, NTD? Launch director, go ahead. Launch team is ready to proceed. I copy that. I will conduct my poll. KSC processing, chief engineer, verify no constraints to launch.
No constraints.
Copy that, thank you, Steve. KSC shuttle, safety and mission assurance.
KSC SMMA is go for launch, Pete.
Copy, Terry, thank you. Payload launch manager. PPISS processing team is go. Copy, thank you, Bill. Range further.
Weather has no constraints for launch.
Copy, thank you. Kathy, and ops manager.
Pete, looks like a great morning. Your go to launch 131.
Copy that, thank you, sir. Discovery, launch director.
Go ahead, sir.
Obex, the vehicle is clean, weather is good, and this team is ready. It is time for you to rise to orbit. Good luck and Godspeed.
Thanks, Pete. The crew of STS-131 is really honored to represent the thousands of dedicated people that make up all the entire NASA, JAXA, and contractor workforces. We're flying on the most capable and versatile spacecraft ever built, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Let's do it.
Copy that. Thank you, sir. NTD, launch director, you do have a go to launch Discovery. Copy, thank you. Go to proceed with count.
T-minus 8 minutes and counting.
PLT in work.
Pilot Jim Dutton is now flipping switches in the cockpit to directly connect the 3 fuel cells to the essential power buses.
OTC, PLT, essential buses connected to fuel cells.
Copy.
Good news, all 3 fuel cells operating normally. T-minus 7 minutes, 30 seconds.
Let's go for orbiter access arm retract.
And Discovery, OTC, it's time to light up the skies on your mission to expand scientific research on the International Space Station. Select rookies to ride a shuttle. This vehicle is about to go 17,000 miles per hour. Enjoy your ride.
Discovery copies. Thanks a lot.
Best wishes from orbiter test conductor Lori Sally to the crew of Space Shuttle Discovery. T-minus 7 minutes and counting. The orbiter access arm has been retracted away from Discovery. This is the walkway used by the crew to gain entry into and out of the shuttle, and it can be returned to position within seconds should it become necessary. T-minus 6 minutes, 30 seconds and counting.
KRPS, start APU display recorders.
APU recorders are running.
PLT, perform APU pre-start.
PLT in work.
Orbiter test conductor gave pilot Jim Dutton a go to perform the auxiliary power unit pre-start procedure. The APUs provide pressure to the shuttle's 3 hydraulic systems, which move the main engines and aero surfaces during flight. A final test of the flight control surfaces is being conducted. This is a programmed pattern of movements designed to verify the readiness for launch of all the flight control surfaces, the elevons, speed brakes, and rudder. And the main engines are being gimbaled through a pre-programmed series of maneuvers as a final test before launch. T-minus 3 minutes, 15 seconds and counting. T-minus 2 minutes, 39 seconds and counting.
DOT, clear caution and warning memory. Verify no unexpected errors.
DOT in work.
And the gaseous oxygen vent hood, or beanie cap, is being retracted away from the top of the external tank. T-minus 2 minutes, 20 seconds and counting.
Discovery, close and lock visors. Initiate O2 flow.
Discovery copies visors and O2 flow.
T-minus 2 minutes and counting. Liquid hydrogen replenish on the external tank is now being terminated.
Electric go for ET LH2 pressurization.
T-minus 1 minute, 44 seconds and counting. All systems are go.
One minute, 30 seconds.
90 seconds away from the launch of Space Shuttle Discovery. T-minus 1 minute, 15 seconds and counting. T-minus 1 minute.
1 minute.
The ground launch sequencer will verify that the 3 main engines are ready to start. The booster joint heaters are being deactivated at this time. We're transferring to orbiter internal power. Discovery is now running off of its 3 onboard fuel cells. T-minus 38 seconds and counting. Coming up on a go for auto sequence start.
TLS is go for auto sequence start.
T-minus 25 seconds. Discovery's onboard computers have primary control of the vehicle's critical functions. 20 seconds.
15.
T-minus 15 seconds and the sound suppression water system has been activated.
10.
We have a go for main engine start. 3 engines up and ready. 3, 2, 1. 0. Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery, blazing a trail to scientific discoveries aboard Space Station.
Houston, Discovery, roll program.
To roll, Discovery.
This is Mission Control Houston. Space Shuttle Discovery is rolling into a heads-down position, putting it on course for 51.6 degree, 136 by 36 statute-line orbit, and eventually the International Space Station. Discovery's 3 liquid-fueled main engines are now throttling down to reduce stress on the shuttle as it travels through the area of maximum dynamic pressure. Discovery is already at an altitude of 4.7 miles or 26,500 feet, and traveling.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Roger, go at throttle up.
Traveling 1,000 miles per hour, Discovery's engines are now throttled back up and performing at full capability. At liftoff, the shuttle weighed more than 4.5 million pounds, and now 1 minute and 27 seconds into the flight, the main engines and solid rocket boosters have reduced that weight by about half. The solid rocket boosters alone are burning 11,000 pounds of propellant per second, and the external tank is now 3,000 pounds lighter than when it began. Discovery is now 21 miles away from its launch pad and 22 miles in altitude, traveling 2,700 miles per hour. All three main engines are working just as expected. The three fuel cells are generating power, and the three auxiliary power units are all producing pressure. In short, everything performing well. 2 minutes and 7 seconds into the STS-131 mission.
103 converged.
The booster officer in the Mission Control Center has confirmed solid rocket booster separation. All systems continuing to function well. Two orbital maneuvering system engines on Discovery's tail are now firing as well, providing the shuttle an extra boost into orbit. The engine burn will last 1 minute and 44 seconds.
Discovery, two-engine TAL.
Discovery copies, two-engine TAL.
That call indicates that Discovery can now reach Morón in Spain should one of the three main engines fail. However, all three of those main engines are currently working well. 2 minutes and 59 seconds into the flight, and Discovery is now 79 miles away from Kennedy Space Center in Florida, 48 miles in altitude, and traveling at 4,500 miles per hour. Space Shuttle Discovery also seeing the first of many sunrises of the STS-131 mission.
Discovery Houston, you are negative return.
Discovery copies, negative return.
Discovery is now flying too high and too fast to return to the Kennedy Space Center in the event of an engine failure. That's not currently a problem, however, as all engines are continuing to perform as expected. 4 minutes and 15 seconds into Discovery's flight. Shuttle's traveling 6,000 miles per hour at an altitude of 63 miles and is 181 miles away from Kennedy Space Center. Environmental Systems Officer here in Mission Controls confirmed that the flash evaporator system has been activated to provide cooling to the shuttle system until the shuttle's cargo bay doors open and double as radiators.
Discovery, press to ATO.
Discovery copies, press to ATO.
Should two of the shuttle's three main engines fail after this point, it can still reach a safe, though lower than planned orbit, as that call from Capcom Rick Sturko indicated. Discovery is now 5 minutes and 42 seconds into its flight.
Engine Ops 3.
Discovery, single engine Ops 3.
67 miles in altitude and 351 miles away from Kennedy Space Center. Discovery could still make it across the Atlantic for an abort landing, even if two of the three main engines failed at this point. All engines are performing well.
Discovery, single engine Zaragoza.
Discovery copies, single engine Zaragoza.
Discovery now flying more than 10,000 miles per hour, 66 miles in altitude and 430 miles away from Kennedy Space Center.
Discovery, press to MECO.
Discovery copies, press to MECO.
And that call indicates that Discovery can reach its planned orbit of 136 by 36 statute miles, even if one of the engines fails. All three engines are still working well, as are the auxiliary power units and the three fuel cells.
Discovery, you are single engine press. Your shutdown plan is nominal Go for the plus X, go for the pitch maneuver.
Copy. Now when I set that saying, go for the plus X, go for the pitch.
Even if 2 engines were to fail at this point, Discovery could still make its planned orbit with just 1. That shouldn't be necessary, however, as all 3 engines are still performing at full capability. Also, Capcom Rick Starkow there letting Commander Alan Poindexter know that Discovery will cut off its 3 main engines as planned and that he has the go-ahead then to pitch Discovery up to allow for photos of the external tank to be taken after its separation. Discovery now 7 minutes and 48 seconds into its mission, traveling at 15,000 miles per hour, 63 miles in altitude, and 730 miles downrange from Kennedy Space Center. The booster officer here in Mission Control is reporting that Discovery's 3 main engines have been shut off. We're now waiting for external tank separation.
Discovery Houston, nominal MECO, OHMS 1 is not required.
Nominal MECO, OHMS 1 not required.
And there is the external tank separation. 8 minutes and 53 seconds into the STS-130 mission. Discovery now safely in orbit, 66 miles above the Earth, and traveling at 17,500 miles per hour. Also 1,065 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center. Commander Alan Poindexter is maneuvering the vehicle into position to take some photos of the external tank, now separated from Space Shuttle Discovery. The tank provided fuel to the shuttle's 3 main engines for its climb into space. It weighed 1.6 million pounds at liftoff, but with the main engines sucking fuel out of it at a rate that would drain an average swimming pool in about 25 seconds, it was just about empty and weighed less than 11,000 pounds by the time it separated from Discovery.
This is Mission Control Houston, back now with a live view inside the Space Shuttle Flight Control Room, where the Orbit 2 team is beginning handover activities with the Orbit 3 team. The Orbit 3 team will take a look at tomorrow's timeline, and we'll begin to fine-tune the activities for the crew of Discovery. You see Mike Massimino there on the lower left-hand corner of your screen. He is the outgoing Orbit 2 Capcom. There on the top right-hand portion of your screen is Paul Dye. He will be the Orbit 3 flight director. And standing up in the center portion of the frame is Mike Serafin. He is giving some final instructions to his Orbit 2 team.